The day the aliens arrived changed everything. People around the world stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. The massive ship hummed over New York City like a silent storm cloud. It was smooth and silver, with no visible windows or doors, just flowing lines that seemed to bend light around it. Dr. Alan Wright stood on the roof of NASA headquarters, his heart pounding in his chest. After years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, they had found humanity instead. "They're requesting a meeting point," said Samantha Powell, the State Department representative who had been hastily assigned to the contact team. Her voice was calm, but Alan could see her hands shaking as she held her tablet. "Tell them we agree to their terms," said Alan, his eyes never leaving the ship. "And Sam, let's try not to mess this up." 3 hours later, they stood in a hastily prepared conference room at the United Nations. Security teams had swept the building multiple times. The president had spoken directly to Alan and Samantha, making it clear that the future of Earth might depend on this first meeting. When the aliens finally entered, Alan was surprised. He had expected something truly bizarre, but the delegation looked almost humanoid. They walked on 2 legs, had 2 arms, and heads with features in roughly the right places. But the similarities ended there. The leader of the group stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin was a pale blue that seemed to shimmer in the light. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils moved gently around her head as if floating in water. Her eyes were large and completely black, with no visible pupils. "I am Ambassador Scytalia of the Loraxian people," she said in perfect English. "I speak on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, an alliance of 27 space-faring species. We have been observing your world for some time." Alan stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Alan Wright, and this is Samantha Powell. We welcome you to Earth." Scytalia nodded. "We have come to evaluate humanity's potential for membership in our coalition. This process typically takes 1 Earth year." One of the other aliens, a shorter being with gray skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, made a sound that might have been a laugh. "If they qualify at all," he said. His voice had a metallic quality that made Alan's skin crawl. "Every species deserves fair assessment." "Grunthak," said Scytalia, with what Alan thought might be annoyance. "The humans have achieved much in a relatively short time." "They still fight wars among themselves," said another alien, this one tall and thin with skin like polished stone. "They damage their own environment. These are not the actions of a species ready for galactic citizenship." Alan felt his face grow hot. "We've made mistakes, but we're learning. In the last 50 years alone, We are not here to debate," interrupted the stone-skinned alien. "We are here to observe and evaluate. Nothing more." Scytalia turned to Alan and Samantha. "Please forgive High Counselor Vex. The Vexenar value efficiency above all else. They find emotional responses inefficient." Samantha stepped forward. "We understand this is a formal process. We're prepared to show you everything about our world, our accomplishments, and our flaws." "A wise approach," said Scytalia. "I would like to begin with a tour of your cultural and scientific institutions. I find that art and science tell the true story of a species." "Of course," said Alan. "We can start tomorrow morning." As the meeting ended, Alan noticed Scytalia lingering behind her colleagues. When the others had left, she approached him and Samantha. "There is something you should know," she said quietly. "Not everyone in the coalition supports bringing new members into our community. Some see Earth as—" She paused, searching for the right word, "as a resource rather than a partner." "What does that mean?" asked Samantha. "It means," said Scytalia, her black eyes seeming to grow even darker, "that what I see during my time here will matter greatly for your people's future. And I promise you this, I will see with clear eyes." With that, she turned and glided from the room, leaving Alan and Samantha to wonder if they had just met an ally or simply a more polite version of their judge. The next morning, Alan waited nervously at the entrance to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Samantha stood beside him, checking her watch every few minutes. Do you think she'll actually show up? Alan asked. Ambassador Skitalia struck me as someone who keeps her word, Samantha replied. Right on time, a sleek silver vehicle pulled up. It made no sound and seemed to hover slightly above the ground. The door slid open, and Skitalia stepped out alone. Good morning, she said. I hope you don't mind, but I asked the others to follow their own evaluation paths today. I find it easier to learn about a culture without commentary. Alan smiled. We're happy to have you to ourselves. He immediately blushed at how that sounded. I mean, we can have a more relaxed conversation. Skitalia's head tendrils rippled, and what they were learning was her version of a smile. For hours, they walked through the museum. Skitalia stopped at paintings, sculptures, and artifacts from around the world. She asked thoughtful questions about everything, not just about the art itself, but about the people who made it, the times they lived in, and what these objects meant to humans today. Your species feels so deeply, she said, standing before a Van Gogh. You put your emotions into physical form. We Loraxians understand this. Many coalition species do not. Later, at a small cafe near Central Park, Skitalia surprised them by ordering coffee. You can drink our beverages, Samantha asked. We did thorough biological compatibility tests before arrival. Most Earth food is safe for me, though I cannot say the same for all coalition members. Skitalia sipped the coffee and her tendrils fluttered rapidly. Fascinating sensation. Ellen noticed people at nearby tables trying not to stare. News of the aliens had spread worldwide, but seeing one in person at a coffee shop was still shocking. Ambassador, Samantha said carefully, last night you mentioned that some see Earth as a resource. What exactly did you mean? Skitalia set down her cup. The coalition has existed for over 10,000 of your years. Many member worlds have depleted their natural resources. Earth is unusual, rich in biodiversity, water, and rare minerals. Some view it with interest. You mean they want to take what we have? Alan said flatly. Not all, Skitalia replied. But some, yes. The Vexinar in particular believe that resources should go to those who can use them most efficiently. They consider emotions and cultural preservation inefficient. Their conversation was interrupted when Alan's phone buzzed. He frowned at the message. It's from NASA. Your coalition ships are requesting permission to collect atmospheric samples over the Pacific Ocean. This is the first I'm hearing of this, Skitalia said, her tendrils now completely still. Who authorized this activity? The message says Intelligence Officer Grunthak. Skitalia stood abruptly. We should go there immediately. When they arrived at NASA's monitoring station, they found the atmosphere tense. On large screens, they could see 3 small coalition ships hovering over the ocean. They're not just taking air samples, said a NASA scientist. They're scanning the ocean floor and mapping something. Alan turned to Skitalia. Is this part of your evaluation? Before she could answer, the door opened and Grunthak entered with 2 tall Vexinar guards. Ah, Ambassador. I see you're observing our resource survey. Grunthak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. This was not approved by the full delegation, Skitalia said. A minor oversight, Grunthak replied. High Counselor Vex determined it was necessary for a complete evaluation. These humans deserve the same respect we would show any potential member world, Skitalia insisted. Grunthak moved closer. I have reviewed your schedule, Ambassador. Museums, coffee shops. These are not efficient methods of assessment. Perhaps you've grown too interested in these humans. I'm doing my job thoroughly, she replied coldly. Indeed. And speaking of thoroughness, I've prepared this for the official record. Grunthak handed her a thick document. Our preliminary assessment of human civilization. I believe you'll find it comprehensive. As Skitalia scanned the pages, her tendrils drooped visibly. She looked up at Alan and Samantha, her black eyes somehow conveying sadness. This report recommends Earth be classified as a danger to galactic stability. It suggests a minimum quarantine period of 100 years. Alan felt his stomach drop. Can they do that? Not if I have anything to say about it, Scylla whispered. That evening, Alan couldn't sleep. He paced his small apartment, thinking about Grunthak's report. 100-year quarantine would mean no human would ever travel beyond their solar system in his lifetime. It would mean Earth would be cut off from galactic knowledge and trade. It would mean being alone in the universe again, but this time knowing what they were missing. His phone rang at 3 a.m. It was Captain Lisa Reeves from the U.S. Guardian, Earth's newest space vessel. Dr. Wright, we're tracking unusual activity, Lisa said, her voice tense. 3 coalition ships have broken from their assigned orbit. They're conducting some kind of scan over the Arctic ice cap. Have you contacted their command ship? Alan asked. Yes, they claim it's authorized research. But Ambassador Scylla told us yesterday that all survey activities would stop until proper protocols were established. I'll call Samantha and we'll meet you at mission control, Alan said. By sunrise, they had confirmation. Coalition ships were not just scanning but had actually taken samples from the polar ice and several deep ocean locations. This is a clear violation, Samantha said as they watched the tracking screens. We need to speak with Scylla. When they met Scylla at the UN building, her tendrils were tightly curled close to her head, a sign they now recognized as stress. I've been trying to contact High Counselor Vex all night, she said. He's not responding to any communications. So much for respecting potential member worlds, Alan said bitterly. Scylla looked at them with her dark eyes. There's something you need to see. She produced a small device that projected a 3-dimensional image into the air. It showed a meeting room aboard the coalition ship. Around a table sat representatives from several alien species, including Grunthak and High Counselor Vex. This was recorded yesterday, Scylla explained. My aide managed to access it. They watched as Vex spoke to the group. Earth presents an unusual opportunity. Its resources remain largely untapped, and its technological level poses no significant threat to coalition operations. What about membership evaluation? Asked one alien that looked like a tall insect. A formality, Grunthak replied. Ambassador Scylla's assessment will be noted, but the final decision has already been recommended to the High Council. And the humans? Asked another. Vex's stone-like face showed no emotion. They will be given protected status. Resource extraction will be presented as technological exchange. They need not understand the true value of what they possess. The recording ended, and Scylla's tendrils quivered with what seemed like anger. This is not how the coalition is supposed to operate, she said. This is not what we stand for. What can we do? Samantha asked. I must report this to the Coalition Ethics Committee, Scylla replied. But first, I need evidence of these unauthorized surveys. Alan's phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. Captain Reeves says she can get us close to one of the coalition ships if we leave now. 2 hours later, they were aboard a small craft from the UNS Guardian, approaching a coalition survey ship hovering over the Atlantic Ocean. From their position, they could see a beam of light extending from the alien vessel into the water. They're extracting something, Lisa said from the pilot's seat. Our sensors indicate high concentrations of rare earth elements in that area. Scylla operated a small device, recording everything. This is exactly what I need. Unauthorized resource extraction during a membership evaluation is forbidden under coalition law. Suddenly, their craft shuddered as a beam of energy locked onto them. We're being scanned, Lisa said, her hands steady on the controls. A voice came through their communication system. Human vessel, you are in restricted space. Return to your base immediately. This is Ambassador Scylla of the Loraxian Diplomatic Corps. By what authority have you restricted Earth space? There was a long pause before the response came. Ambassador, your presence on this human vessel is noted. High Counselor Vex requests your immediate return to the command ship. Scylla looked at Alan, her expression determined. "The council meeting is tomorrow. Once I present this evidence, the unauthorized activities will stop." "And if they don't listen?" Samantha asked. "Then," said Scitalia, "I will have to decide where my true loyalties lie." Scitalia stood alone in her quarters aboard the Coalition command ship. The evidence she had gathered was organized on her datapad. She had recordings of unauthorized resource surveys, samples of Earth minerals taken without permission, and the damning meeting where Vex and others had discussed treating Earth as a resource world rather than a potential member. A soft chime announced a visitor. Her aide, a young Blaraxian named Pelter, entered with news. "Ambassador, the High Council has moved the Earth assessment meeting forward. It begins in 1 hour." Scitalia's tendrils curled in surprise. "That's 12 hours earlier than scheduled. Have they given a reason?" High Counselor Vex cited security concerns after yesterday's incident with the human vessel. Scitalia knew this was no coincidence. They wanted to rush the process before she could properly present her evidence. "Contact Dr. Wright and Ms. Powell immediately," she told Pelter. "Tell them what's happening." As Pelter moved to the communication terminal, the lights in the room flickered. The terminal went dark. "What's happening?" Scitalia asked. "All systems are locked down," Pelter said, checking another device. "Communication with Earth has been restricted by direct order of Intelligence Officer Grunthak." Scitalia moved quickly to a hidden compartment in her quarters. She removed a small device and handed it to Pelter. "Take my personal shuttle. Go to Earth and find the humans. Give them this. It contains copies of all my evidence." "Ambassador, leaving without authorization during a council meeting is a serious breach of protocol." "So is planning to exploit a developing world," Scitalia replied. "Hurry, before they lock down the shuttle bay too." After Pelter left, Scitalia prepared herself for the council meeting. She knew what was coming, but she would not back down. Meanwhile on Earth, Alan and Samantha waited anxiously at the designated meeting point. They had received no communication from Scitalia since returning from their mission the day before. "Something's wrong," Samantha said, checking her watch again. "She's never late." Alan's phone rang. It was Lisa Reeves. "Dr. Wright, we're tracking a small craft that just left the Coalition command ship. It's heading directly for your location. Is it Scitalia?" Alan asked. "No official communication, but it's a diplomatic shuttle. Be careful." When the shuttle landed in the empty parking lot, Alan and Samantha approached cautiously. The door opened to reveal a younger version of Scitalia's species. His head tendrils were shorter and moved more quickly. "Dr. Wright, Miss Powell, I am Pelter, aide to Ambassador Scitalia. She sent me to find you." He explained the situation quickly, the early council meeting, the communication lockdown, and Scitalia's concern. "The council meeting is happening now?" Samantha asked in disbelief. "Yes, and there's more. Last night, Ambassador Scitalia discovered that members of our own Loraxian diplomatic team have agreed to support Earth's classification as a protected resource world in exchange for primary extraction rights in your ocean regions. Her own people betrayed her." Alan's face showed his shock. "Politics in the Coalition is complex. Many worlds face resource shortages. Earth represents a solution to many problems." Pelter handed them the device. "This contains all the evidence the ambassador has gathered. She wants you to have a copy in case something happens." "In case what happens?" Samantha asked. Pelter's tendrils drooped. The last diplomat who opposed a High Council decision was reassigned to an outpost at the edge of known space. Some say her memories were altered. Alan took the device. "Can we communicate with Scitalia?" "Not directly, but I can return to the command ship and at least observe the council meeting." "Then take us with you," Alan said firmly. "Impossible," Pelter replied. "Humans are not permitted. Your ambassador is about to stand alone against the entire coalition to defend our world," Samantha cut in. "We're not going to let her do that without support." Pelter looked at them with newfound respect. It would be extremely dangerous. So is letting your coalition treat Earth like a mining colony, Alan said. After a moment, Pelter nodded. Very well, but we must hurry. And you will need to wear environmental suits. Some council members produce atmospheres toxic to humans. As they boarded the shuttle, Lisa Reeves contacted Alan again. Whatever you're doing, Dr. Wright, be careful. Our sensors show the Coalition command ship is preparing to break orbit. Once they leave Earth's vicinity, we have no way to reach you. Understood, Alan replied. If we're not back in 24 hours, give the President this message. Zetelia was right. The Coalition Council chamber was enormous. Curved rows of seats rose up like a giant bowl, filled with representatives from 27 different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Alan could barely understand what he was seeing. He and Samantha stood in a small observation area with Pelter, wearing the environmental suits he had provided. The suits included devices that made them look like minor Coalition species from a distance. Remember, Pelter whispered, do not speak or draw attention to yourselves. Humans are not permitted in council meetings. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform where Zetelia stood alone. Her blue skin seemed paler than usual, but her posture was proud and determined. Facing her was a panel of 7 aliens, the High Council, with Vex seated in the center position. Ambassador Zetelia. Vex began, his stone-like face showing no expression. You have been tasked with evaluating Earth for potential membership. The Council has reviewed Officer Grunthak's preliminary assessment and finds his recommendation for quarantine reasonable. Do you have anything to add before we vote? Zetelia stepped forward. An aide approached her with a data pad, which presumably contained her prepared statement. She glanced at it briefly, then set it aside. Honorable Council, she said, her voice strong and clear, I cannot in good conscience support this recommendation. Earth is a remarkable world with a species worthy of respect, not exploitation. A murmur ran through the assembly. Vex leaned forward. Ambassador, please keep to the assessment criteria. I am addressing the criteria, Zetelia replied. But I am also addressing the truth behind this evaluation, a truth the Council seems determined to ignore. She activated a projection device, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images of Coalition ships taking unauthorized samples from Earth's oceans. These surveys were conducted without proper permission, she continued. They violate our most basic protocols for contact with developing worlds. Those surveys were authorized by security directive. Grunthak called out from his seat. A convenient claim, Zetelia responded. But I have evidence that suggests otherwise. She changed the projection to show the recording of the secret meeting. Vex's voice filled the chamber. Earth presents an unusual opportunity. Its resources remain largely untapped. Vex stood abruptly. This recording is out of context and unauthorized. Is it? Zetelia asked. Or is it simply inconvenient? The Coalition was founded on principles of mutual respect and cooperation. What I have witnessed regarding Earth betrays everything we claim to stand for. She turned to address the entire assembly. Humanity has flaws, yes. They fight wars. They damage their environment. But they also create beauty, seek knowledge, and show remarkable kindness. In my time on Earth, I saw humans devote themselves to healing their world, not just exploiting it. I saw them extending compassion across boundaries of language and culture. The chamber had grown completely silent. Alan felt a surge of pride hearing Zetelia defend his species. Most importantly, she continued, I discovered that certain Coalition members, including representatives from my own world, have already negotiated resource extraction rights on Earth, before our evaluation is even complete. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. One council member, a being with 4 arms and golden skin, stood up. These are serious accusations, Ambassador. Do you have proof of these negotiations? I do, Zetelia replied, reaching for her datapad. But before she could access it, Vex made a small gesture. Two security officers approached the platform. Ambassadors Catalia, Vex announced, his voice now carrying an edge of anger. You are clearly suffering from the effects of prolonged exposure to human influence. Your judgment has been compromised. My judgment has never been clearer, Catalia shot back. Security will escort you to medical evaluation. Vex continued as if she hadn't spoken. This council meeting will resume after a brief recess. The security officers each took one of Catalia's arms. She struggled briefly, then looked directly at the observation area where Alan and Samantha stood. Though she couldn't possibly see them through their disguises, her gaze seemed to find them anyway. The truth cannot be silenced forever, she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Earth deserves better than this. The Coalition deserves better than this. As she was led away, Alan turned to Pelter. We have to help her. We will, Pelter replied, his tendrils trembling with emotion. But first, we need to get you back to Earth. You have the evidence now. It's no longer safe for you here. Pelter guided Alan and Samantha through the maze-like corridors of the Coalition ship. They moved quickly, their disguises allowing them to pass groups of aliens without raising alarm. Where would they take Catalia? Alan whispered. Medical evaluation is on the lower deck, Pelter replied. But I doubt that's where they're really taking her. What do you mean? Samantha asked. When the council wants someone silenced, they don't usually bother with actual medical care. Pelter's tendrils twisted with worry. They would more likely take her to a diplomatic isolation chamber. As they turned a corner, they nearly ran into Grunthak and two Vexnar guards. Alan and Samantha froze, but Pelter calmly nodded in greeting. Grunthak barely glanced at them before continuing on his way. That was close, Samantha breathed once they were alone again. Too close, Pelter agreed. We need to get you back to the shuttle bay. Not without finding out what happened to Catalia, Alan insisted. Pelter hesitated, then nodded. There's a data terminal ahead. I can access ship logs. At the terminal, Pelter's fingers moved quickly over strange symbols. Ambassador's Catalia has been placed in diplomatic quarantine, he reported. That's unusual. What does that mean? Alan asked. It means she's been isolated completely. No communication in or out. Samantha frowned. They're treating her like she has a disease. In a way, yes, Pelter said grimly. The official record states she's been compromised by prolonged exposure to primitive influences and requires recalibration. Alan's face darkened. They're going to brainwash her. The Coalition prefers the term mental realignment, Pelter said. But yes, essentially. We can't let that happen, Samantha said firmly. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. What's happening? Alan asked. Pelter checked the terminal again. Someone has discovered my shuttle is missing. And his tendrils went completely still. They've detected unauthorized life forms aboard the ship. They know we're here, Samantha realized. We need to move now, Pelter said. The shuttle bay is this way. They ran through the corridors, no longer bothering with stealth. Twice they had to duck into side passages to avoid security teams. Finally, they reached the shuttle bay, only to find it guarded by 4 Coalition security officers. Now what? Alan whispered. Before Pelter could answer, a calm voice came over the ship's communication system. Attention all personnel. This is High Counselor Vex. The Earth assessment has concluded. Earth will be granted protected status under Coalition supervision. The 50-year observation period will begin immediately. Protected status, Pelter translated, means Earth will be prevented from developing any technology that might threaten Coalition interests. They're going to keep us primitive while they take what they want, Samantha said. The announcement continued. Ambassador's Catalia has been temporarily relieved of duty due to health concerns. Coalition representatives will inform Earth authorities of these developments. We need to get back to Earth with Scatalia's evidence, Alan said. How do we get past those guards? Pelter thought for a moment. I have diplomatic access. I might be able to create a distraction. When I do, run for the shuttle. Before they could argue, Pelter stepped out into the open and approached the guards. He spoke to them in a language Alan couldn't understand, gesturing dramatically. The guards seemed confused. One of them moved away from the others, following Pelter to a nearby terminal. Now, Samantha whispered, pulling Alan toward the shuttle. They had almost reached it when a loud voice shouted, "Stop!" Alan turned to see Grunthak standing in the doorway, his 4 eyes all focused on them. "Humans," he hissed. "I knew there was something strange about you." He raised a weapon, but before he could fire, Pelter tackled him from behind. "Go," he shouted to Alan and Samantha. "Get to Earth. Tell them the truth." Alan hesitated, not wanting to leave Pelter behind. "There's no time," Pelter yelled as he struggled with Grunthak. "The evidence is what matters. Go." With heavy hearts, Alan and Samantha boarded the shuttle. The doors closed behind them, and Samantha, who had been watching Pelter operate the controls earlier, quickly started the launch sequence. As the shuttle lifted off, Alan looked back to see Pelter being surrounded by security forces. "He sacrificed himself for us," Samantha said quietly. "No," Alan replied, his jaw set with determination. "For the truth. And we're not going to let that sacrifice be in vain." The shuttle raced back to Earth, but they weren't alone. On the scanner, Alan could see 2 coalition ships in pursuit. "Can this thing go any faster?" he asked Samantha, who was piloting the small craft with surprising skill. "I'm trying, but we're not built for speed," she replied, her hands moving over the unfamiliar controls. "The good news is they're not firing weapons. They probably want their shuttle back in one piece." As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Alan contacted Captain Lisa Reeves. "Lisa, we're coming in hot with 2 coalition ships on our tail. We need cover." "I see you," Lisa responded. "U.S. Guardian is moving to intercept. What happened up there?" "It's worse than we thought," Alan said. "They've detained Scatalia and declared Earth a protected world, which means they plan to keep us primitive while they strip mine our planet." "Understood. I'm alerting all Earth defense systems. Get to these coordinates when you land." Lisa sent them a location, a secure facility outside Washington, D.C. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, Alan saw the U.S. Guardian position itself between their shuttle and the pursuing coalition ships. The Guardian wasn't much compared to the alien vessels, but it was enough to make them hesitate. "They're breaking off pursuit," Samantha said with relief. 2 hours later, Alan and Samantha sat in a conference room with Captain Reeves, the U.S. President, and representatives from major world powers. They had just finished showing Scatalia's evidence. "So the coalition plans to keep us under their thumb for 50 years while they take what they want," the president said, his face grim. "And they've silenced the one person who tried to defend us," added the Chinese ambassador. "Not completely silenced," Alan said. "We have her evidence. We know the truth." "What good is knowing the truth if we can't do anything about it?" asked the Russian representative. "Their technology is far beyond ours." Lisa Reeves, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Maybe not as far as they think. Since first contact, we've been analyzing their ships. Dr. Wright, show them what you found." Alan connected Scatalia's device to the room's display system. "Pelter didn't just give us evidence of the coalition's plans. He also gave us access to their communication protocols." On the screen, streams of alien code appeared. "Using this, we might be able to hack into their systems," Alan explained. "Not enough to take control, but maybe enough to access their communications." "And what good would that do?" asked the German chancellor. Samantha leaned forward. "Scatalia told us the coalition has 27 member species. We've mainly dealt with the Vexenar and Grunthax people, who clearly see us as resources to be exploited. But we saw other council members who seemed disturbed by what was happening. You're suggesting we appeal to the other species? The president asked. Exactly, Alan said. Scatalia believed in coalition principles, even if some of its leaders don't. There must be others like her. And Scatalia herself, Samantha added. She's still up there, being held against her will for defending us. We can't abandon her. The room fell silent as everyone considered their options. Finally, Captain Reeves spoke. I have a small team with experience in special operations. If we could get aboard that command ship again, it would be extremely dangerous, the president warned. So is letting them turn Earth into a mining colony, Alan replied, echoing his earlier words to Pelter. The president looked around the room, then nodded slowly. Develop a plan. But remember, we need to be smart about this. We can't match their technology in a direct confrontation. We don't need to, Samantha said. We just need to get Scatalia free and broadcast the truth to the wider coalition. According to her files, many worlds receive direct communication feeds from coalition proceedings. You're talking about exposing their plans to the entire galactic community, the Indian Prime Minister observed. Exactly, Alan said. Scatalia believe there are decent people, or whatever they are, among the coalition species, people who would oppose what's happening if they knew. It's a long shot, the president said. It's the only shot we have, Alan replied. And we need to move quickly. According to the coalition protocols, once the 50-year protection period begins, they'll establish communication dampening fields around Earth to prevent technological contamination. In other words, they'll cut us off completely, Lisa added. How long do we have? The president asked. Ellen checked the data. 3 days. Then we'd better get started, the president said. Captain Reeves, assemble your team. Dr. Wright, Ms. Powell, I hope you're ready for another trip into space. Alan and Samantha looked at each other. Both were exhausted and still processing everything that had happened, but both nodded without hesitation. For Earth, Samantha said quietly. And for Scatalia, Alan added. The plan was simple but dangerous. Alan, Samantha, and Captain Reeves led a small team aboard a modified shuttle. They had reprogrammed it to appear as a coalition maintenance vessel using the codes from Scatalia's device. Dr. Olivia Franklin, Earth's leading xenobiologist, joined them to help with any medical issues. The coalition command ship has resumed normal operations, Lisa said as they approached. Their guard might be down since they think the situation is resolved. Their shuttle docked with a massive alien ship without incident. Using the disguises Pelter had provided, they moved through the corridors, following a map from Scatalia's files. Diplomatic quarantine should be on level 6, Ellen whispered. They encountered few aliens. Most were focused on preparations for departure. According to the ship's announcements, the coalition fleet would leave Earth orbit once the protection protocols were in place. When they reached level 6, they found 2 guards outside a sealed door. That must be where they're holding her, Samantha said. Lisa Reeves checked her weapon, a non-lethal device designed by Earth scientists based on coalition technology. I'll handle the guards. Dr. Franklin, be ready to check on Scalia's condition. The distraction worked perfectly. Lisa created a small explosion in a nearby corridor, and when the guards went to investigate, the team slipped into the quarantine room. Scatalia lay on a bed-like platform, connected to several machines. Her blue skin had turned a pale gray, and her head tendrils barely moved. What have they done to her? Ellen asked in horror. Dr. Franklin examined the equipment. They're suppressing her neural activity, essentially keeping her sedated while they rewrite her memories. Can you reverse it? Samantha asked. I think so, Dr. Franklin replied, studying the controls. Their biology is different, but the principle seems similar to our medical equipment. As Dr. Franklin worked, Lisa kept watch at the door. Hurry, she urged. We have 15 minutes before the next security patrol. Slowly, Scatelia's color began to return. Her tendrils started to move more naturally. Finally, her large black eyes opened. Ellen, Samantha. Her voice was weak but clear. How did you get here? We'll explain later, Alan said. Can you move? We need to get you out of here. Yes, I think so, Scatelia said, sitting up. But why rescue me? The Council has made its decision. Earth is lost. Not yet, Samantha replied. We have a plan, but we need your help. They explained quickly as they helped Scatelia to her feet. She listened, then nodded firmly. The main communication hub is 3 levels up. From there, we can broadcast to all Coalition worlds simultaneously. Will anyone listen? Dr. Franklin asked. They will if the broadcast comes from a council session, Scatelia said. And luckily, the council is meeting right now to finalize the Earth protocols. With Scatelia guiding them, they'd made their way to level 3. Twice they had to hide from security patrols, but Scatelia's knowledge of the ship proved invaluable. At the communication hub, they found Pelter. Ambassador, he exclaimed, his tendrils quivering with surprise and joy. They told me you were ill, being treated. They lied, Pelter, Scatelia said, as they have lied about many things. Are you with us? Always, Ambassador. With Pelter's help, they accessed the council chamber feed. On the screens, they could see Vex addressing the assembled representatives. The Earth protection protocols will be active within 6 hours, he was saying. All resource surveys will proceed according to schedule. Scatelia touched a control panel. Now, Alan. Alan connected Scatelia's device to the system. All of her evidence began to play on screens throughout the ship, and more importantly, on thousands of worlds across the Coalition. The council chamber erupted in confusion. They could see Vex shouting, trying to stop the transmission. Scatelia activated the communication link to the chamber. Her face appeared on the main screen there. Honorable representatives, she said, her voice now strong and clear. You have been deceived. Earth is not a primitive world to be exploited, but a diverse, creative civilization worthy of true membership. The evidence you now see proves that certain council members have violated our most sacred principles. On other screens, they could see the broadcast reaching ships, stations, and planets throughout Coalition space. Messages began to pour in. Confusion, outrage, demands for explanation. It's working, Samantha whispered. The door to the communication hub slid open. Security forces rushed in, led by Grunthak. Stop this transmission, he demanded. It's too late, Scatelia replied calmly. The truth is out. The Coalition will have to decide what kind of civilization it truly wants to be. As Grunthak raised his weapon, the screen showed something unexpected. In the council chamber, representatives from a dozen worlds were standing, demanding Vex step down. The feed switched to views from Earth, showing human art, music, natural wonders, the full evidence of humanity's worth. The security forces hesitated, looking at the screens, then at each other. Grunthak slowly lowered his weapon. It seems, he said grudgingly, we have much to reconsider.